Time is at 6:30. So we had a 6:30 start. So
I had one other question.
Sure.
I had one other question. What is OML?
Mute me, turn off speech.
Open meeting laws.
Oh, okay.
They should not have put it that way. Don't like, I should have written out open meeting laws. Sorry about that, Harriet. I will fix that later. We're gonna,
Could I make a request before you start, Holly? Can
Sure.
everyone who's in attendance just put your name into the chat? And if you're here in some sort of official capacity, you just put like your official capacity next to it. This will help me as the unofficial minutes.
Because Holly, I believe in Brian's absence, Katie has volunteered to take minutes since Brian
Okay.
will be here.
thank you, Katie.
Do my best.
We're gonna start off this month, new chairperson, a little bit of a different foundation. And we're gonna start with always having a roll call first, so that we have a record of who was in attendance. And then we're gonna go and spend at least 10 minutes with Adrian, giving us updates of what she's been working on since we last met. And then we're also gonna have a report from the racial and social justice team. And at times it may be someone else from RSJ, or it may be Adrian giving that presentation. And then we're gonna go to the chair's report, minutes, and then we're gonna jump right in. And this week we have a great presentation to watch here from City Point Partners. And then we're gonna move through open items and new business. So without ado, Katie has people putting their names in. Yes, thank you. So Kleinfelder and MBTA, that's very helpful because we know we have guests here from different organizations that are working with or for the MBTA. Katie is here, I'm here, and Adrian is here. Brian is excused, he has a conflict. I'm looking for, I see Leon. Who else am I looking for?
Bonnie is excused too.
Yes, Bonnie just had surgery.
Oh,
Now I have Pauline, we have Harriet. Has anyone seen Henry? Okay, no Henry. Or Jamie.
no, Jamie.
Okay, maybe they will join us later. Roll call is done. Welcome, everybody. It is October 11th, and we have a packed agenda as usual. I'm gonna go straight on and pass it to Adrian, our ADA coordinator, and she's gonna give a report of new things that she's been working on.
Thanks, Holly. This probably collectively with RSJ will not even take 5 minutes. And going forward, more than likely, it will probably be me reporting on the RSJ things just for capacity. First of all, everybody with the exception of our guest speakers should have gotten an email this morning about fielding feedback on types of questions you would like to see on the ADA community survey. I would like to have that. So these are things you think we should be asking the community in order to gather data on accessibility needs and other things related to that. If email is not the best format for you to do that in, I'm happy to arrange a time via Zoom or over the phone to gather that feedback. I would like to have it by Friday, October 21st. Going on, as I said at the top of the meeting, but I'll say it for the group. We have been utilizing Perkins School for the Blind to get meeting materials for Braille for some of our attendees. And it's a learning process because what we're learning, as we've discussed before in these meetings, that when you're working on alternative formats or different formats, that sometimes things need to be in as plain text as possible. And Perkins shared with me that the way that myself and Holly are receiving the reports about the accessible parking fines, which come in like this really nice PDF report, are not conducive to being translated in Braille because they're not plain enough to be translated. So I am working with Perkins to get that in a more workable format so our participants can have that information. So that will be available starting next month. But again, this is how we learn about these things and how we have to send things for these accommodations. And then moving towards RSJ, some other staff with racial and social justice has released the Community Reimagining Policing and Public Safety Survey. That is in all of the Somerville languages, but I will put the English version in the chat. And then everybody can access that as well. And we would appreciate as a department your participation in that.
Excuse me, this is Harriet. Could you
Sure.
send that to me in an email? Just the link or whatever it is to the that survey too?
Of course, I'd be happy to send that out in an email to everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry. The link that you posted in the chat, Adrian, is that a document that we can also share online from our meeting documents? You're on mute now.
I believe it's already online. It's been shared on the RSJ social media channels several times, and probably will be several more times. But I will see the direct website link because I think it's probably on the city's website in the general department page. And I will also put that in the email or try to find it while we're talking about some other things.
Okay. Anything else? Have you had any updates on where we are with commissioners?
I do not have any updates right now. I did check this afternoon and there are no updates, and I will, the mayor's office will report directly out when there's an update, so.
Yeah, I had sent a message to the mayor and a separate message to Hannah Carrillo 2.5 weeks ago. I didn't get a response from either of them. Hannah said, we have your request and we will work on it. So I replied asking for some timeframes. Hi, Leanne. And I did the same with the mayor. And so I think we're going to have to bump it up if in a few more days I don't get any responses. These emails are about where are we with the commissioners that have been very patient, the applicants for commissioners. And when will that process be moved forward?
I understand, Holly. Certainly if I hear anything, I will pass it along. Thank you.
This is Leanne. Can you just clarify what the current status actually is? Because I have no idea at this point.
That's what we were talking about. Adrian is asking the same questions. And today I sent emails, one to Hannah Carrillo, who's part of the mayor's office, and one directly to the mayor that I had sent both like 2.5 weeks ago and never heard back from, just asking for some updates. So I'm just gonna hit all the people at the same time and hope that we get some responses.
Okay. Last I remember hearing was when the new call had been sent out. Has that finished, and has that like, have people been interviewed and then submitted, or are we still in that stage?
Adrian, I thought you had said there was one new applicant.
The call is still open, Leanne, as far as I know. They did not decide on a deadline, and we did receive one application in that period so far.
Can we review that application now?
No, we can't do that in a public meeting.
I'm sorry, not here tonight,
Oh,
but
okay.
with the hiring subcommittee, can they meet?
I would have to check on that because I'm not sure if the mayor's office wants to wait or not. But I can field that question.
Okay. Anything else you want to share?
That is all I have for right now. So I will turn it back over to you, Chair.
Were we able to forward the minutes? Excuse me, did everyone receive the minutes that Brian had put out there to review?
This is Leanne. Is this the minutes from September?
Yes.
Yes. I received September. I don't think I received anything else.
That's all there would be. Yep, this is hearing it.
Katie, did you also receive September?
I received it. I did not review it.
That's okay. September. I'm looking at it. I think I changed 3 words. Nope, that's not it. I don't want to rush on approving these unless we've all had good enough time to look at them. So unless anyone is opposed, I'm gonna let those wait till next month. And also, he was looking to see who had taken minutes for other meetings. I know I owe one of them. And
Yeah, he was looking for June and August, I believe.
okay. But my question is, Brian has a private, within the city's SharePoint account. He has a personal Brian Postlewaite folder with commission minutes, but he also has the documents that were shared. And when they're approved, it does not appear that they're going over to the actual city's website on our page. So
we'll have to check, Holly, and I'll check the records, but I am not sure myself the last time this body approved any meeting minutes.
okay, we can square that off. It's not
Yeah.
a voting item. It's
No, it's not. But it appears that the last ones approved may have been from May, since Brian is asking who took June and August, because it sounds like he took July's. So it sounds like to me that you all need to approve June, July, August, September, and then subsequently next month, October.
This is Leanne. His email is asking for June, July, and August. So it sounds like he doesn't have any of those.
okay. Thank you, Leanne. He also has
I missed
folders within that same SharePoint site of all the agendas and all of the information. I think maybe together, Adrian, you and I can look and say, this is here, this isn't, and just sort of sync it all up so that everything is in one place on our site with the city.
Yeah. Any documents that were sent prior to a meeting are on the city's website. It's probably just a matter of double checking. They always confirm when they post. But then the other side of that, as you know, is anything such as meeting minutes, the transcripts, that get posted after a meeting is complete.
I am gonna wait for my pieces only because I want to make sure that City Point has enough time to present what they want to show you tonight. And about a week ago, maybe, Adrian and I had the pleasure of sitting down and just looking at what the presentation was going to be, just to sort of ask some questions and then understand sort of what will and will not be part of this. And from my notes, there are things that we as a commission probably would like to have seen changed, but that's not the scope of what's being done. So we're going to discuss tonight what is the scope in the contract. That doesn't mean we can't discuss with other people what, with our own municipality, why are these things not up to par, any of our concerns. And then anything else?
Does anybody have the agenda? I cannot find it. I'm trying to.
I emailed a link to everything. Do you want me to just try
Oh,
and-
that was it. Okay, that's there. Okay, thank you.
Anything else you want to say before we have Kim and the team kick off? Is that a no, Adrian? You're all set? Okay. You have the floor, Kim.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Adrian, and thank you everyone at the commission for having us tonight. We're excited. Like I said, my name is Kim Tracy. I'm the public outreach consultant with the MBTA in Kleinfelder, who's the designer of this project that we're here to present to you regarding Davis Square Station. It's an elevator improvements project, which Bob will get into more detail in a second. In an effort to get some city feedback, we've been meeting with the Council on Aging and with you guys tonight to get some feedback ahead of what we anticipate as a public meeting sometime in November. So we'd love to get your feedback. I know we only have about 15 minutes, but we do have an email address. If you think of anything afterwards that you want to ask, please feel free. And I think you all have a copy of the presentation as well, a PDF, but I'm happy to resend that out if you don't have it. But with that further ado, I'll let Bob take over the floor. I don't know if Holly or Adrian, if you're able to give Bob permission or if he already has permission to share his screen.
I do.
Okay.
I see the little button.
Great.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Burnham. I'm an architect with Kleinfelder. Do a lot of work with the MBTA, basically doing a lot of accessibility improvements. I have about 20-ish slides that I'm going to sort of page through and explain the scope of what we're trying to propose. So I'm going to share here. Let's see if this works.
Yep.
Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, so Davis Station. The team, so you can kind of gather from this slide, our project manager for the MBTA is Eitan. Eitan's on this call.
Yeah. Hi, everybody, good evening.
The project manager on our side is Andre. Andre is also on this call. And then myself and Kim, so that's that. Just the general overview. This is always the tough part of these projects is the scope of the job. This is originally scoped as an accessibility project, meaning improve elevator, improve sort of accessibility access into the station. And once you start doing that, it triggers other things. And the catch is sort of trying to contain and focus on what the accessibility components are. So I'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the station condition, sort of current condition, and then the gist of what I'm going to try and present is what we're proposing, which I hope is what folks will kind of just sort of dig into and see where the comments are. And then there's just a slide at the end about just sort of next steps. So big picture, the MBTA, you know, as you can imagine, is always improving things all over their various lines. This slide is essentially almost like a map of improvements throughout the system. There's lots of other elevator sort of improvement projects happening. There's basically 9 that are part of this one program. Kleinfelder proper is working on 2 of the stations, the Broadway station and Davis station. In terms of phase, we're at about the 75% design level. So we've advanced our designs far enough that there's sort of enough meaningful things to show to a group like yourself or a public meeting sort of venue to get real sort of important feedback. Again, the scope is really just accessibility improvements with a focus on elevators. A lot of the stations in question either have old small elevators or have one when they really need 2 or 3, depending on the sort of circulation in the station. And then once you sort of touch the elevator components, touch station components, you start triggering other code compliance and other sort of state of good repair improvements. And I'll get into a little bit of that. I'll try not to focus on that, but the gist of this is elevators. Also things like customer experience, wayfinding, station lighting. To lesser degrees, those come into play, but they will be impacted. And then there's just a couple of orientation slides. So the bulk of what we're doing is happening essentially at street level, mezzanine, a little bit at platform level. A lot of it is street and mezzanine. So on the left-hand side of the slide is the College Ave entrance. And then the Holland Street station entrance is on the right-hand slide, or half of the slide. There's just a couple images of the existing condition. So this is the College Ave entrance. You know, what's really interesting about this photo is there's an existing elevator at the College Ave entrance. It's really hard to find in these photos. The little silver door on the left-hand side of the top left photo is the existing entrance to that elevator. So what we're trying to do is improve visibility, sight lines, wayfinding, you know, make it easy to find and use the elevator. So this is, you know, the existing condition is just this sort of opaque arrangement. That's sort of an intro on College. These next 2 slides are the Holland Street entrance. The slide on the left is sort of the, I guess you almost call it like the face of the building. That's sort of this heavily used pedestrian sort of portal where the Somerville community path sort of comes under the building. It's a really busy spot, folks waiting for the bus, folks on bikes crossing this, going under the station, lots of pedestrians, joggers. There's a lot happening in that spot. The slide on the right is the back of the Holland Street station entrance, the sort of plaza that faces out to the Seven Hills Park. What's unique about this photo is there's obstacles, these columns which hold up the artwork, you know, create a challenge when you try and sort of reimagine the space and improve the pedestrian flow. So there's things there that we're going to need to work around. This image is just the existing sort of street level. Again, College Ave entrance is on the left, Holland Street entrance is on the right. What's worth noting is the yellow box. So the yellow box on the left-hand side of the slide is the existing elevator. We call it elevator 1. There is no other elevator to get down from street to mezzanine. So what our project is going to do is basically remedy that. Essentially, there's no backup elevator, redundant elevator. We're going to wind up adding an elevator to the Holland Street entrance. Next slide. So here's the mezzanine level, sort of one level down. Again, the yellow box on the left-hand side of the screen is the elevator 1 coming down from street level. The green dotted line and then the red dotted line are sort of the paths of travel from either the stairs or the elevator towards the center of the station. And then again, just that one singular yellow box, which is the elevator 2, which brings folks from the center of the mezzanine down to the platform level. You know, it's unfortunate there's one way, and if that breaks, you know, there goes the accessible route. The other thing of note on this is I'll probably focus on the bottom right photograph. I don't know if I can zoom. Yeah. The bottom right photograph shows the existing condition of the Fairgate array, basically the ticketing array, and the position of elevator 2. You know, this is around 4 or 5 feet between the back of those gates and the front of that elevator array or elevator. It's a real pinch point. And so while we're basically introducing another elevator to this layout, we're going to reposition the gates to improve this pedestrian circulation. So you'll see that in one of the new slides. The other footnote on this slide is way off to the right-hand side of this mezzanine level is the sort of back of house electrical zone. You know, you wouldn't think that electrical equipment is important to a presentation for such as this, but the electrical gear is old enough and in need of repair and replacement that it affects what we're proposing upstairs. We essentially need to replace all this gear and it won't all fit back downstairs. Some of it's got to come up on the plaza. So you'll see that in the new slide. And then this is the platform level. So again, just that singular elevator going from mezzanine down to platform. This is elevator 2. So that's what was out there. And then these next few slides are what we're proposing. So I'll start on the left on the College Ave side. So there's the yellow box from the slides before. The sort of pink box is the new elevator 1. So we're going to add what we call a stretcher size or stretcher compliant elevator, which is a much bigger hoistway, a bigger cab. It's big enough that you could roll a stretcher into that, that would be impossible on the existing elevator. The existing one is just too small. So when the MBTA, you know, rolls out elevator improvements, basically the standard is this stretcher compliance size. So we're basically adding that big elevator, elevator 1 at College. And then if we come over now to the Holland Street entrance, there's a full-size stretcher compliant. It happens to be elevator number 4. There'll be 4 elevators when we're done. The positioning of this elevator, you know, we sort of played with several different schemes on how to fit this into the station structure. There's a series of beams sort of below the street level that really dictated this position. You know, we would have preferred a different layout, but this is sort of the most direct and least intrusive way to put this elevator hoistway into the station. And then just the others, well, I guess I'll just advance to the next slide. So that's big picture street level. Here's sort of a basic rendering of elevator 1. This is the College Ave head house at the top of the stairs. So here's the escalators. These doors are looking out to College Ave. And what we're trying to do is basically punch holes in the walls and add glass wherever we can. So now someone can actually see into this cab. So in terms of just wayfinding and finding the elevator, and then visibility into the cab, which will improve safety, is just sort of an important thing. That's elevator 1. We're going to jump over to elevator 4. So this is the Holland Street entrance. Again, just sort of a blow up view. There's a lot sort of happening on this image, but probably the 3 things or 4 things that I would focus on are, the pink box is the new elevator. That's elevator 4. It goes from street to mezzanine. The sort of blue gray tone is an expansion of the lobby. What we're trying to do is expand the lobby walls, glass walls, over to the elevator so that the entrance of the elevator is within the sort of protected space. It's under the roof. It's not going to have rain blowing on it, snow piling up against the door. You can essentially wait for the elevator indoors. Or if you chose to wait for the bus, you could now wait in the building, not just under the roof, but you could be inside. So of the 4 things, the elevator is 1, the sort of expansion of the lobby is 2. The third sort of important thing on this is the bus waiting area. Because we've enlarged this lobby, we've taken away that bench that is under the canopy. We're going to move the bench and provide a small canopy sort of out in front of the building in an effort to sort of keep a good sight line out to the street so that folks that are waiting for the bus can still see the bus coming and still be underneath a canopy. And then the 4th thing that's sort of different on this plan from what's out there today is the electrical gear. So this sort of big rectangular area behind the building, which currently is a lot of bike parking, this is going to have a fenced off area for basically a bunch of electrical gear that won't fit downstairs. This gear feeds power and connections into the station and multiple other sort of gear down the line. So this is kind of a critical piece of infrastructure that really needed to be replaced, and it just won't fit downstairs. We really tried to squeeze it in downstairs, but it won't fit. Those are kind of the highlights on this. The other sort of things of notes, the green band going behind the building is sort of an indicator that we need to improve the bike sort of travel sort of around this area. Right now, everyone goes under the building trying to get to the community path. So whether you're coming from the path to Davis Square or you're sort of traveling from Davis trying to go outbound, almost everybody goes across this sidewalk if they're coming outbound, and then they sort of go under the building or vice versa. So there's a lot of sort of conflicting activity happening here. We're going to engage, another member of our team, landscape architect, kind of help us sort of filter the paths, improve the wayfinding, improve the sort of arrangement of all these sort of activities. This drawing is really just kind of a diagram of pulling the bike path or pulling the bike folks sort of behind the building rather than having them competing with folks walking under the building. That's street level. I'll just go downstairs just to keep moving. Just a quick image. Here's a rendering of the elevator up at street level. Really, the thing that's noteworthy on this is just the glass. So we've tried to introduce as much glass as possible, just to improve wayfinding, so there's no blind spot. Here's mezzanine level. So now you can see what are the 4 elevators. Elevator 1 on the college side, elevator 4 on the Holland side, and then elevators 2 and 3, which go from mezzanine down to platform. Just briefly, I'll just re-emphasize the sort of positioning of the fare gates. We've essentially pulled these away so that we're improving circulation. And then by setting up these 2 elevators next to each other, folks can push a button and basically take either elevator, whichever one comes. And then here's just an image of elevator 3 and elevator 2. The new elevator 3 will have as much glass as we can get into it, just improving sight lines. And then there's platform level, the 2 elevators coming down to the center of the platform. That's the bulk of it. We do have, or the T has established sort of a web page to sort of get into kind of the broader elevator program. The MBTA does have an accessibility group, which they have their own sort of landing page. And then as Kim mentioned, there is, plans for a larger, broader public meeting in November. The date is to be determined. And then I think there is this sort of email that I think Kim is monitoring in terms of questions. So if somebody had questions or comments, you could send an email to this link. And I think it goes right to Kim, and
Yep, you're right, Bob.
we'll field that.
Mhm.
I have a question. This is Pauline.
Sure.
How in the name of heaven are you going to fit all of this with how narrow all of the space is?
Which level? Like,
On the mezzanine level, you come down the stairs and you start walking and it bows out to the left, and you follow the railing down to the fare booth.
Mhm.
It narrows. It's very narrow there. There's not much room.
yeah, what I didn't get into, I mean, we are doing other things. I was trying not to explain too much, but the blue sort of areas on the plan are concrete infills. Basically, we're adding floor space where there isn't floor. By doing that,
Good
we
luck.
can, well, by doing that, we can essentially take the fare gates and some of the equipment and push it to the left and push it to the right. We've essentially made floor where there isn't floor in order to make space. I understand it is a really congested space at rush hour, for sure.
And Bob, you may want to just explain on the right side, coming down from the Holland Street entrance, that we're adding that blue elevated walkway above the platform in order to get physically from the elevator to near the stairway escalator.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to do this without adding this sort of floor slab.
And
to
then
just-
could you say, excuse me, this is Harriet. So what I'm hearing, just to echo back and see if I got it, Pauline and I are both blind, so you're really talking to us through this. So if I understand correctly, you're basically widening the walkway, the corridor that is there, where we walk through to get to the other end of the station. Is that correct? So that you can push the fare booth back. I mean, closer to the platform.
Somewhat, yeah. What's out there today are the 2 old booths, the sort of one at one end and another at the other end, the tiny little metal booths. We're going to recreate those booths as rooms, like real rooms, not the little metal booth. One room will get pushed to the right. It'll have the sort of equipment and gear that is the brains of the gates. there'll be a smaller room pushed to the left, which is where the customer assistance person will sit. Right now, they kind of hide in the little booths with these dark tinted windows. We're going to basically give them
Yeah.
a real room with glass so you can see them, they can see you. In addition, we've added floor space so that there's more area to put the ticket dispensing machines. Right now, the machines are in the corridor.
But Harriet, one thing, to answer your question, we're not widening the entire walkway. We're widening maybe on either side. What is it, about 30 feet?
Yeah,
Give or
15,
take.
20. It's
Something, I don't know the exact dimension, but we're adding some space, but not the entire length of the walkway.
Right. Well, that wouldn't be needed. You're correct.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. I
No.
get
Okay.
that.
Good.
Wow. I wonder if those, will the outer wall be affected at all? Because it would sure be nice to keep the tiles that have been there since it opened in '84. I don't know.
yeah, there's no plans to remove or change any of that. I mean, we're trying to be sort of careful not to touch too many things because it just becomes a domino effect.
Oh, yes.
So no, we're not taking the tile away. Fingers crossed.
Thank you. Very, very well explained. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was good.
And I
Probably want to
see
take Ian's
Leanne.
question.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is Leanne. I have a question. It's hard to tell exactly from the drawings, like how far the platform itself extends. Is there any possibility of having elevators that go directly down to the platform level rather than having to take one elevator and then change to another one?
Unfortunately, no, there's no sort of clean path to do that. We can do that in some stations, but it just logistically doesn't work here. We looked at that, and what happens is that if you sort of took one of these pink boxes and traced it downstairs, it just winds up where you don't want it. It just doesn't work if you sort of carry it all the way down.
The one on the left, the elevator one from College Street, that one literally would not fall on the platform. It would be in the track.
Yeah, it's like off the page. Yeah.
Yeah,
You have a very narrow platform to land on.
Okay, and there's are the
Yeah.
head houses like at the very ends of the platform, or are they like 2/3 the way down kind of thing?
Let me see if I can draw this on here.
Like, could you have like the elevator is just like, if you walk to the end of the platform, you walk straight into the elevator, and then you don't have to worry about like passage room on either side of it?
One of the other issues by doing that is you have to pay your fare.
Yeah.
So if you took an elevator straight down from the street all the way down to the platform, how do you pay your fare? Now, having said that, there are some stations where, because again, there was just no way to come up with a better solution, where a small little fare collection is located down on the platform level right outside the elevator. So you would take the street and you would pay.
What I was envisioning.
Right. And the problem with that is that it's a security problem. It's not an optimal operating condition, especially for a very busy station.
Yeah, I would encourage you, if it is just an issue of that and not an issue of there's literally physically no way to make it line up, to try to find solutions to that, because the existing of having to take two separate elevators is not an optimal path either. And so I would encourage you to try to find solutions for the non-optimality on the side that is not directly affecting people with disabilities.
Yeah, we've definitely done it in other projects. It's really hard to accomplish on this one.
Yeah, and that's not saying, like, I don't know if there is a way to make it physically work at all in this one, but just in general, I would encourage you to try harder on that side. And because, if the existing solution isn't optimal as an accessible route, just sort of weighting that a little bit higher.
I mean, maybe I can explain some of it. So here, elevator one, here's the footprint of elevator one. So spatially, elevator one is sort of beyond the track. It's nowhere near the platform. So if we took that all the way down, you're basically in, behind the scenes.
In the ground.
Which doesn't really work. Elevator 4 is complicated and difficult in a different way. This is a portion of elevator 4. This is the piston of elevator 4. And what's unique about this is the edge of the platform is like there. I think it's there. If I showed the full size of elevator 4, it's like that. And then there's construction that goes around it. And then you can see this column, there's beams above this, there's beams doing that. So we're sort of pinned in where it is. And if I try to bring it all the way down to the platform, it's literally right up against the train. So the geometry just is not working for us to be able to do that. You see how complicated it gets really quickly.
When they constructed this building in the first place, they didn't have all these things under consideration.
Agreed. Yeah.
I mean, that has been our biggest issue, is trying to, I mean, if you've been down in the station, those huge beams that are all over the place. And unfortunately they don't line up. So on one level, they're here, and then the next level they're at another, in a different spot. And so to pass a shaft all the way through all of that, and if you to move those beams is a very, very tough thing to do. And we were trying to avoid that to keep the project, a reasonable project.
Yeah, well, it's going to take a couple of years anyway.
This is not a short duration. From a staging point of view, the proposal is to build the Holland Street entrance first, so that you'll still continue operating the old elevator at College. So the idea is finish everything at Holland Street and the new elevator at the platform. Then you come back, once that's all up and running, then you come back and take out of service the College Street side and rebuild that.
Is that
So
like
it is a
5
long duration construction, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Is that
really?
This is Harriet. Is that like a 5-year project? I'm just curious.
No, it's not. More like 2-year, I
Two,
think, in that
yeah.
order of magnitude.
Holland Street entrance still be usable.
Well, would the entire Holland Street be sort of closed for a period of time on just only College Ave? This is Harriet, sorry.
No, the station will remain operational. Both entrances will be open, even when, for instance, you're building the Holland Street entrance, the elevator. There'll be a big hole in the sidewalk to get down to the roof of the platform, but that'll be fenced off and protected so nobody falls or drives into it. But the stairs and escalator will remain open.
Impressive. Good.
Unless
Wow.
the T comes back at some point, like they've done in some stations where they shut the station down for 1.5 years to speed up the construction. But I don't think that will happen.
This is Harriet, like in Wollaston, right?
Yep, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is Harriet. Thank you very much for the presentation. I really,
Thank you.
I'm impressed, because not seeing your illustrations, the slides. You did a really good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think, yeah, Kim was going to say that we'll welcome any feedback that you have when, if you think of something else, you have the presentation. There is a similar version, I'll just say, there's a similar version on the website. It's a recorded presentation of me presenting the previous design phase. So we have made some progress, but if you want, first of all, I think you have you probably have a recording of this meeting and you have the presentation. So maybe that's the most updated design that exists currently. So you can watch this, and please provide it anytime your feedback or questions, and we'll do the best.
And by the way, the email is, if you want to send questions, is elevatorprogram@mbta.com. So it's elevatorprogram@mbta.com. So
I think I saw one hand raised, but now I don't see it anymore, so maybe.
Oh, that was me. This is Leanne. I just had a little bit of a question about the what you're going to do in terms of trying to direct bikers to go behind the building.
That's fine. That's fine.
Instead of in front. And specifically, I know that myself, when I have gone there biking, part of the issue is if you're coming, turning off where the curb cut is, the entrance to that path is now sort of behind you.
Right.
And like, is there, I guess, like, do you have control over sort of like the crosswalk side of that space to sort of try to make that less of a feeling like a sharp turn out of the way?
We've asked, I don't think we've gotten a good answer, but that's a legitimate question that has been asked, is how much of this geometry can we play with? We've had some meetings with Somerville's planning department. They're sort of looking for us to take the next step and sort of reimagine this a bit more in a bit more refined way, and then represent it to them to see, what is plausible for us to do.
So Liam, one of the things is exactly what you're, I think, suggesting, is that if we realign that table crossing, it's a crossing, and right now it doesn't align with the back walkway, with the back passageway. So if we align it more, so if you're coming across on a bike, it's the natural thing to go straight ahead. One of the other things that if you go out there now, there are some obstructions in sort of on the existing pathway. There's some bike racks, there's some other things right in that area.
Newspaper boxes.
Right, and which make it difficult, even if you wanted to go back that way, it's not the easiest. So we'll clean all of that up and make it a little bit easier, even if we don't realign the crossing.
So, an interesting footnote, as I was looking through some older images of the station, I saw the previous version of the crosswalk before this realignment. The old crosswalk was almost exactly aligned to the community path. So before it became a traffic table, there was, striping across the road and a curb cut, which is sort of the natural desire line to go under the building. But it's unfortunate that when the traffic table went in, the alignment it's
just a little bit off.
It's just a little unfortunate, the alignment. So anyway, just something I
just make the crosswalk the entire width of the station. Sounds perfect.
Well, what's funny, if you go to other big centers, like go to Harvard Square, they took the entire Harvard Square and raised the whole thing so it's all flush.
Yeah.
So anybody can go in any direction. You're not sort of funneled in any particular way, they almost need to do that, like just raise the whole thing. I don't know, just something to think about.
Any other questions or thoughts? We really appreciate you meeting with us, and sharing this information, as well as ensuring that we know where we can reach back out to you about this project or any projects, especially those that involve elevators. What is your next step or your timeline in this project?
We are progressing with the design. We'll have the community meeting sometime in November, and based on the feedback we will get, we'll do these adjustments, fine tuning. We'll complete the design, and then it's a matter of funding. The MBTA is requesting funding for the entire program. So there are nine stations that are competing for funding. We're not sure that all of the the entire program can be funded. So the best case scenario, the best case scenario is that if we are funded for construction, the earliest that we can start construction is sometime the late summer of next year. But I mean July, August, but that's again depends on funding, and we don't know. We don't have an answer for that yet.
But I think the T's intent is to finish the design of all these projects so that, should, federal grant money or anything like that become available, the projects will be ready to go, as opposed to having to start design. So, which is smart of the T.
Yeah,
Is the
thank
T
you.
hoping
you,
that
Andrew.
funding will become available, or has funding available?
Again, if the T is hoping that funding will be
Is
available.
the funding available now to keep moving the project forward, or this is the first phase of this because the MBTA is expecting funding will come, so that
No,
they
no.
have
Regardless of funding for construction, regardless of construction money, all of the program is fully funded through the completion of the design. So the 9 stations are in slightly different stages of design, but sometime by the end of this year or early next year, all stations should be the design should be completed for all stations, for all 9 stations, and then it's a matter of construction money, getting funding for construction, basically.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
So the design part, once that's done, if it already isn't, if the next steps, the building pieces and costs would be after that, and that funding would need to be found. Maybe it'll come sooner, but you're hoping it'll be in place.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
hoping to get funding the next fiscal year, which as I said, the funding can be available. Projects that are approved for construction, funding should be available in July or August of next year. We're hoping will be funded, but that still remains to be seen. But this project, all other 9 stations are fully funded through the end of through completion of design, at least, and then
Great.
we'll have shovel ready projects that once funding is available, we can go ahead and start construction.
Is one of the last slides, does it have all the contact information for your team as well as the MBTA elevator contact email? We had talked about,
Yes, exactly. So,
So that elevator program email address, that will go to the entire project team. So it's kind of like a group email, if you will.
so we'll have a copy of that page.
Yep, it was in the copy that I had sent over as a PDF, but I can send it over separately if that's helpful.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And then your names and roles will also be on another document.
Yes, so that was in the beginning of the presentation, but I can write that out in an email too, if that's easier.
And just having it in any simple format is fine,
Okay.
just so we can keep that with our documents. And if
Mhm.
anyone has a question, they know exactly who to go back to.
Yep, sounds good.
How else can we help?
This
Yeah,
is great
I
with your
think
feedback.
just,
You
just
weren't
getting
expecting that, were
questions
you?
is good. Any
Actually,
question is good.
You know, having been a politician, a selectman for many years, one of the things, if you feel this project is a worthy project, and we hope you do, writing a letter of support to the mayor and to the MBTA, I think would be very helpful, you know, because as Aitan said, you know, there are 9 stations. They don't know how much money. If you show some real good support for this project, you never know. It moves up the list a little bit. So
That's good to know. I appreciate that. Any other questions for this team? Nope. Well, thank you all for being here.
Sorry, but I saw one question in the chat from Katie. Bob, can you remind me which entrance is planned to start with the College Ave?
Now we're gonna leave the existing ones alone. So we would start over at Holland
Okay.
Street entrance.
There you go, Katie. I knew I had a 50-50 shot. I picked the wrong one. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the time, and I know you guys have a busy agenda, so we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us.
thank you.
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Is it a hat or is it a wig, Katie? It's quite stunning.
What a great time to be right next to me is when I'm trying to take notes. It's like he's like a little parrot that just sits on my shoulder and just
Bites you in the side of your ear and,
yeah.
okay. So when Adrian and I had that presentation the first time, it was longer. We asked them to, focus on things that would make sense to someone who isn't an engineer or a designer of train stations. And sort of simplify some of the terms. But I thought that visually having light inside of these buildings, clearly having elevators that work, signals that work, are great. They are not there to replace all of the floor. They are there to fix any broken bricks. Every level in that station is brick. So that was a little upsetting to me to know that they weren't going, because it's just going to continue to fall apart. The one thing I asked about was access from behind I guess that's Holland Street station, from like the Cambridge side, like Mass Ave, because I frequently walk, park there and then walk through, and you'd have no idea that there was actually a train station there and that that was an accessible way. So I think some of the things that our first run through were, you know, the MBTA has this box, the city has this part. So the idea is like better signage or lights, just telling you where to go from this side to get in. I don't think they're big asks, but I think they'd be helpful to let someone know when if this gets legs. Any other comments, Adrian?
I thought they did a really good job. I'm glad they paid attention to the feedback about plain text and reducing the slides and being focused on the scope of the project.
They were good people.
Because he is
Um,
correct. I mean, we could spend all day on T stations.
Okay. How did that leave us?
We're at 7:38, Holly.
Oh my God, when did it become 7:38? Okay. Okay, so we do not have enough time for any of these. We have to come back and do the outstanding minutes next time.
Mhm.
My chair's report consisted mostly of our bylaws
Okay.
and our some of our scope documents and a lot of things that we've been discussing that we needed to put into sort of not a parking lot, but in process or open projects. Like making sure we have a library that has every meeting, the agenda, the minutes, any documents that were attached. And certainly, will we be putting this Davis Square presentation online?
I believe it's already online. I believe it's part of the city record already.
But is it with our,
Mhm.
on our page with our documents?
Mhm. And the city webpage as a whole went through a revamp at the end of August. I need to check with the web person to see how they are housed now, because just so I can send, like, generally there's a link and then somebody could scroll through by date and see minutes, all of the things associated with that date. And I want to make sure with that revamp that that link is still accurate and takes people where they need to go.
There was an email I forwarded to everyone. Most people were on it blind about the CAM training, community access monitor training
Mhm.
that was coming up. If anyone had a chance to look at it, it would have been sent just before I sent the agenda. That's coming up in early November. I
Okay.
asked today if there were still seats, and I also asked if the city if we could host the next one where a few of us could attend. I did it a year ago. It's really, really good training, hands-on, physical space, built space, sidewalks, curb cuts, ramps.
Yeah. So from what I understand, Holly, and from what Jeff told us when he was here, whatever number of months ago, that different commissions can host these trainings, and then the MOD provides the actual training, but it's hosted by Pittsfield, which is what this up and coming one. Okay.
My question to him was, are there still spots?
Okay.
If someone wanted to do the Pittsfield 2 days, and then how soon could we host? And host basically means it's our Zoom meeting. And if all the seats aren't filled by Somerville people, there may be other commissions that have someone from their city or town that joins. So they used to be in person and they haven't in a while now.
Yeah.
But
I
they're
know
very good.
that Merrimack and Melrose it seems their commissions, I don't want to say fairly new, because I don't know if that's accurate, but they may not be as organized as Somerville is. So they're folks that once you get this going, that you may want to specifically reach out to, since Melrose is actually pretty close to us. I don't think Merrimack is. I'm not very good with my Massachusetts geography.
No, Merrimack is almost up into New Hampshire.
Oh, okay. I disclosed. I know nothing about
I was hearing Mary Mac. I'm like, who's Mary Mac? Not
It's that game you
Merrimack.
would play when you were little, right? Miss Mary Mac.
Hearing aids. They're new. They're not working. All dressed in black
Yeah,
with
yeah.
silver buttons down her back.
Yeah.
Okay. Please.
Yeah, so Holly, I was just looking at the agenda items, and also that you know, just because of circumstance, you know, October is busy, that we don't have all of the commissioners here. And it seems that you all want to take some time, you know, there's accessible parking funds. That discussion is continued as always. I know you want to look at the bylaws. And then maybe have, as Pauline brought up, a discussion about sort of maybe the holiday schedule, or what that December meeting may look like to accommodate holiday things. So I think those are probably,
When's the meeting in December? I'm sorry. When's the meeting? In
it,
December?
if for right now, sorry, it is
The second Tuesday.
the
Oh, okay.
13th of December, which traditionally is like the final, almost, I feel like, just from my professional life, sort of the final week before people sort of disperse for holiday things.
I won't be able to attend in November.
You know, you won't be able to attend in November. Okay. Yeah. So,
We'll figure it out.
yeah. So maybe that's the focus, Holly, is sort of some of these bigger topics that are going to require a little bit more robust discussion,
Yes.
and potentially maybe some voting on moving certain things along. I will advise you that if you think that there are going to be specific bylaws that you want, this group wants to look at and revise or change, that it is best practice by open meeting law that they would be listed in the agenda specifically, so that it's noted ahead of time that's what you're discussing and potentially voting on. Obviously, with not everybody here, you don't know that for next time. So just how you would sort of do that as an overall discussion of, you know, do you think there are some things we need to update and all those things? So, and a lot of groups choose to do that sort of towards at the end of the calendar year. So that's not out of the realm of, you know, practice. And I don't know when the last time they were updated, except for that in that amendment you all made earlier in the year.
Yeah, that amendment, they were from 2013.
Yeah, so it's 2022. It's been a while. Yes, Leanne.
Yeah, so I think it was about a year ago, definitely since I came on the commission, we did sort of we went through the bylaws and made some changes, and I'm not actually sure what happened with those. I think there was confusion around like where the official copy lives, and like we voted on this and then it needed to be like approved by the city, and I'm not sure if that actually happened. So somebody who understands the bureaucratic side of bylaws a little bit better should probably check in on like what happened, like what are our current bylaws and just are the ones that we approved. I think it was last summer, like actually on the record somewhere aside from meeting notes.
I will check into it.
I don't believe that someone had to approve our
I have been told by our city clerk that that is up to this body, that, you know, you go through the process and you make whatever changes. And the city would just like to have a copy on record. you know,
Of
to know.
course.
Yep.
Yes,
And that's, yeah.
but the bylaws, unless something is illegal that we put in there, which the city would want to see.
Right. If
Um,
somebody saw something that wasn't going to fly legally, that would be flagged. So the copy I was given when I started almost a year ago was from 2013. And then earlier this year, you all made a change to one that said that commissioners must be Somerville residents at the time of appointment.
mhm.
But I don't have the master copy, so I don't have the Word doc or whatever. So that is one
Yeah.
addition that needs to go in there. And if there were changes made last summer, I can certainly look on the city side of things, because that would be the appropriate place to start.
Yeah, this is Leanne. Yeah, that was part of the problem the last time we tried to go do revisions to the bylaws, is we couldn't really find a master copy. Like the only existing copy was like a badly scanned image.
Yeah, and that's
So
what
I
I
think
have.
somebody,
Yeah.
I think somebody actually like went through and like transcribed it into an actual like editable document. But I'm not sure what ended up happening with that. So if we're gonna be going over them again, we should definitely make sure that we have that and not just the same old copy that we were working from before.
I may reach out to Colin just to see if he would have the Word document.
Yeah. My guess would be probably Brian, possibly Bonnie.
Okay.
But I would say one of those two is probably the most likely to
Okay.
have it or know what happened with it.
All right. Sorry for that, Holly. I didn't mean to derail things, but
No, you don't need to apologize at all. So I'd say that the big thing is trying to get updates from the mayor and the mayor's office on where things are. I thought we might actually have people like we had in the past, who just had, you know, public comments, things that they wanted to have addressed. So I'm trying to leave that 20 minutes at the end for that. Not having to use them, it gives us a little bit of a moment to just talk. Number 8, discussion 15 minutes about open items.
Mhm.
I wanted to start tracking. It doesn't have to be the secretary, just to have someone who's tracking what we talked about and where it is. So I'm asking Adrian about where we are with the new commissioners, so that we'll have a parking lot document. These are the things we're waiting for. So when we meet again, we'll try to get an update, and once it's closed out, it's closed out, just so things don't get dropped.
one thing you can do, you can certainly have a separate document that's working, that's totally fine. But another practice that's can often be housed in the minutes if there's capacity is you can call it open items, action items. And so it's sort of just what you just said, a rolling list. And so those items essentially stay open until they are closed by this
So they're
group.
with the agenda.
Right, so
The
it would be a
meeting minutes.
separate section, so you say open items. Or, so there's old business, which is fine, sort of a similar word you could use. Or open items. And I think best practice is generally open old items or talk to about before you get into new things.
Could you say that again? Open items are,
Open, whatever you choose to call it, whether it's open items or old business, meaning things that have not finished the discussion yet, have been carried over. Generally, most groups talk about that first, in sort of the bulk of the meeting after reports and approval of minutes. And then you would move into new items, which potentially could get rolled over into open items, old business, you know, for the next meeting, depending on time and those things. And I know, Holly, whether that's a conversation for the remainder of this year or something you want to pick up in January, I know there's been discussion about potentially extending these meetings. Right now they're at 90 minutes, but you know, having more time. So, but again, that's a discussion this group has to have.
How would that impact you, Katie, if we had a 2-hour meeting instead of an hour and a half?
Oh, thank you. That's sweet of you for asking. It's just, yeah, sometimes for guys, Tuesdays is just a night that I don't have as much help, but I might have more. I don't know. I'm not good at taking notes when there's a lot of stuff going on. It's fine.
But
Are you asking about because of this person who's following me or about having?
no, I love that person following you around. That
No. I'm saying because are you asking because of childcare stuff?
No, I'm just saying in general, like.
It's okay.
Would 6:30 to 8:30 work?
If I know if I know in advance, I can try to plan around it.
Or is there a different, I can be very flexible.
It's funny, you know, it used to be how, you know, sometimes it's easier to be in person just because I'm out of the space. But I know that that's not going to happen. So, but I don't know. You do what you need to do. Do what you need to do.
Okay. Would it be a hardship for you to attend for the 2 hours?
No, no.
Okay. So, Leanne?
Yes.
We were just talking about our meetings being 90 minutes and how it would affect each of our members if we were to make it a 2-hour meeting.
I think that would work for me. I would want to think about it for more than 30 seconds. But
yeah,
I think probably 2 hours.
Anything right
yeah.
now.
2 hours
The
is
only thing
probably
I worry
reasonable.
about is like Zoom fatigue at the end of the night. Sometimes I don't know who else is working on Zoom all day, computers all day. I get kind of fatigued towards the end, but if that's okay with you guys.
What are our options, Adrian, to go back in person?
So that is up to this group. But I know, I can't remember when it happened, Holly, but I know you and I and Bonnie had a discussion at some point. We were meeting about something else. We do have to keep in mind that COVID is still a thing. COVID has not gone anywhere. We are not out of, we're living with COVID, right? You know, that's.
And it's not going to go anywhere anyway.
It's not going anywhere. So what this group has to decide, Holly, which is a discussion, I think, for the bigger group, is how safe people feel about being in person. What are the options for spaces to do that? And to be quite honest, and accessibility to get to meetings. Like if half of the commissioners have access to be able to come in person to the meetings, that's great. But then we have to put in place a hybrid option so folks who cannot be there in person can be on, and there's technology there. It's workable. You know, city council does it. Other, you know, city council committees are still fully remote. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to consider at some point that as your staff liaison, and I cannot speak for the bigger discussion you all probably need to have about this, at least through the end of this calendar year, I think I would at least keep it remote. And then maybe you all can have a discussion maybe in early 2023.
Ian, do you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, this is Leanne. I'm
And
just
then
going to say that
Harriet.
would not be comfortable coming to in-person meetings. And I know Bonnie would not as well. So I think if we, especially like if we're having people who are expressing interest but could only do it in person, then it would be potentially something to consider setting up a hybrid model. But I definitely strongly argue against going to anything even close to all in person or majority in person, I think.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Katie.
Do we think that, well, I just wondering, like, do we think that there's anything lost in the online situation? And if it is that something we can address in some way? For me, it's focus, but that's, and also fatigue of being on it. So there's something, but is there anything else we think is missing? Like the ability to connect in any way? Do we feel like that's a,
There's, this is essentially, a working commission. So it's business, right? You talk about lots of things, you discuss, sometimes there are votes. But it is not out of the realm of possibility, to have, I used to be a school teacher, so this is where this comes from, a fun icebreaker at the beginning to sort of connect in the ways that you would be able to do so in person, but that's safe because you're online, and sort of to engage folks in a different way. So there's that. And then there's also just, and I think this is understood, I don't think this needs to be said, if you need a break, if you need to step away for any, you can do that. Nobody is going to prevent that from happening as well. So that's all I can offer. It looks like Harriet has her hand up.
Yeah, I actually do want to say a couple of things briefly about meetings. I am ecstatic that there is Zoom connection because traveling is so time consuming, and this I can give my full attention to. So we'll talk about it further, but that's my first response. And the second thing is I am dying to talk about the e-bikes and stuff, if that's going to be discussable tonight in any way, shape, or form, at least in a seed form, what the heck we can do about them. It is dangerous. That's all. Anyway, those are my two thoughts. Thank you.
I have one question. Would it be
Sure.
possible to change the meeting time? This is Pauline, sorry about that. Would it be possible to change the meeting time from 6:30 to 7 p.m.? Make it a little bit easier for people who have to cook dinner and do all that kind of thing.
that would be better for me, but.
I like that idea too.
I do too.
Yeah.
Harriet.
So
Leanne, do you?
Leanne, go ahead.
This is Leanne. That would work for me. I would definitely want to run it by the people who aren't here right now, but
Yeah.
my sleep schedule is super late anyway, so late is always better for me.
So if we tried 7 p to 9 p and we had a 10-minute break halfway through.
Yes. Here.
Everyone
Yeah.
just had to stand up, shut the camera off, walk around in a circle, and then come back. You know what I mean? What
Well,
do you think, Adrian?
I think that could work. To Liam's point, I think this is a bigger discussion once the other members are.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's, I just threw it out because,
No, it's
It was
good.
just a
Time
thought.
is also a consideration as well. So it works. But with that said, to our chair, I will say it's 8:01.
yeah.
So it's time to say goodnight. Can I have a first?
So you'll need a motion. So somebody needs to make an emotion to adjourn, then somebody needs to second, and then you will.
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Anyone?
Yawn.
Sorry.
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Katie. Do we have a
This is
second?
Leanne. I will second it.
All in
Okay.
favor?
I,
The only people voting are Holly.
I'm the ones that are
Alright.
emotional.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night.